Equilibrium. The concept of equilibrium is something is in equilibrium if the net forces acting on that object are equal to 0. In other words, if you add up all the forces on the object, they equal to 0, and that will tell you that the object is in equilibrium. But what does this mean physically for the object? What's happening to the object if the net forces are equal to 0? Victoria?
There's no change in its motion.
In other words, it's at rest.
Yeah.
Okay. So an object that is at rest is in equilibrium. But it's important to realize that an object in equilibrium is not necessarily at rest. Let me say it again, just to make sure. An object at rest is in equilibrium, but an object in equilibrium is not necessarily at rest. Somebody please explain. Tom.
Well, if an object is like in a space, I guess, and it's moving in one direction, there aren't necessarily any forces on it as long as it's not accelerating. Like,
We don't need the whole space bit, but the not accelerating bit is
well, I
fine.
mean, there's no, because on Earth there's air resistance.
But actually, but we can still have this situation on Earth.
Okay.
Okay, let's come back to that. There was some good stuff in there. We could still be on planet Earth and be in equilibrium and still be moving. Adam.
The velocity is constant.
And another example of how we can be in equilibrium and be moving is if the velocity is constant. Let's walk through and make sure we understand this. The net force, which is equal to 0, according to Newton's second law, that's also equal to mass times acceleration. This means the acceleration is equal to 0 because the mass of the object isn't going to be equal to 0. Please remind me, what is the equation for acceleration? Nick?
Delta V over delta T.
What does V stand for?
Velocity.
The change in velocity over the change in time. In other words, the change in the change in velocity equals 0. So if the net force equals 0, the acceleration is equal to 0, that means that the velocity is not changing. One option for that is that the object is at rest, or the object could be moving at a constant velocity. An example of that would be a car. You set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour. There's still a force of drag acting on the car, but there's a force applied by the car which is counteracting that, such that the net force acting on the car is equal to 0, and it's simply moving at a constant velocity. Therefore, the acceleration equals 0. That's what equilibrium is.